Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jock here, and this is Optimizing Human Potential. It's been a while since we've been on, and I'm absolutely delighted to be back on the scene. I have a very, very unique couple of guests that are joining us on the show tonight, members of our holistic network. But I think the only mother and daughter team that I know are healers that are actually part of our network. So welcome to Optimizing Human Potential. Welcome, is it Gabriela or Gabriele Slumpberger? I hope I said that right. And Sarah Sherbenou. Or is it Sherbenou? Welcome, ladies. How are you? So if I say your names wrong, you can just tell me. So let's go in a little bit. Mother and daughter team, healers, business owners, entrepreneurs. How did all this get going?
Well, I think it started with Gabby. Really?
Well, I mean, don't all just rush in at once, won't you? Take your time.
So let me say,
how did it all get going?
Yeah, this all started, almost 40 years ago. So, because at that time I was told by doctors that I have to live with my conditions I'm in, with my allergies, with my back pain I have, and that there's nothing they can do for me anymore, so that I have to live with it. And at that point, I didn't accept it. And I turned to alternative medicine to see naturopath. And he helped me a little bit. But then, about 10 years later, I met a lady who does energy work, who is a healer. And we got in contact and she started working with me. And over time, I really got better and better. The allergies went away. My back pain got much better, was manageable, my whole condition. And that started for me to getting curious in all of this energy work, what's involved, what does it mean to have trapped emotions. And then after a while, she started teaching me her energy technique. And by then, I was already married. We had our kids, and our kids also started to develop, allergies and some other health issues. And I started to go with them to her too. And for sure, they trusted. They grew up in a holistic household with homeopathy and herbs and believing just in the alternative medicine because it worked so well for me. And my husband was open to it too. And so Sarah grew up into it. And before we moved to the US, she got more curious, and she can tell about that later. And then we moved to the US. That was a little bit at first a setback to all this work, because for sure we had to meet month's end, and make money. After I was allowed to work, I went to work too. Worked in the kindergarten because I'm a kindergarten teacher. Worked there for many years. But beside that, I gained one certification after the other, always curious to learn more and how also to bring this work to other people, because seeing how many people are struggle and Western medicine only can help them so much. Man, that doesn't mean that I'm against Western medicine. I would love to see the both combined, with all the diagnosis, or when there's an accident, we need them, to fix. But then coming in with this other healing modalities, really dive deep into the emotional traumas and really having tools to release that. And so I developed more and more the desire to learn more about it. That's why I gained the certification. I joined 2015 Healing Touch. Also, Sarah can tell a little bit more about that. And became a Healing Touch certified practitioner. And then we decided to move to Texas. And there I decided, okay, now I stopped working as a kindergarten teacher, and I want to build on my own practice where I can help people to get empowered to find healing. And
That's awesome,
there
Gabrielle. I love that. I love your story.
School. Yeah.
So let me ask you, let me before we jump into your business and the two of you joining together, I want to jump onto you, Sarah, because you were lucky. You were brought up in the holistic world from your mother. Yeah. But before we go into all your training, your qualifications, the business side and everything else, was there any particular point in your upbringing that you wavered and thought, this holistic side is is not really, it's not real? Before you started to really, or were you totally all in right from the beginning? Did you ever have any wavering points?
I didn't really, I mean, like I said, I was born into it in a way, right? I didn't really have a wavering necessarily per se. It was more of it was just kind of part of my life. Like I just kind of accepted it. But, I kind of went and did my own thing as a teenager, went to college, went to nursing school. And it just completely kind of waylaid. I knew that if I had anything going on, I'd be like, hey, Mom, can you look and clear this out or something? So I would call her to like work on me, but I didn't use it myself. And then I really got into it after I graduated nursing school and worked with oncology patients as a nurse, and just saw that, again, Western medicine could only do so much, and they were still so miserable with all the side effects from chemotherapy that I was like, there has to be more. And that's when I kind of turned to energy medicine, I guess, and found healing touch, and got my mom into healing touch as well because I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and got into that. And we got certified, several years of that, and then in 2020 I had another, I guess a setback in a sense, and where I just kind of fell off the wagon, quote unquote, because pandemic started. I was pregnant, had a baby, had a COVID baby, really. I mean, he was born about 6 weeks before the pandemic started.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, hindsight now, looking back, pretty sure I went through postpartum anxiety, depression, aggression.
Yeah. What a time to have that.
I know. It was a little bit of a rough time. And so I didn't even use any of my tools that I had, my energy therapy tools. It's like I was so deep in a hole that I didn't forget about them, but I also didn't remember to utilize them. And only
do you think, sorry, but do you think you didn't remember to utilize them because of the pandemic or because of the stress that you were under, or was it?
I think it was the depression. I was so just in the blues that it was really just newborn baby, no sleep, trying to incorporate the fact that I had a baby all of a sudden in the first place into my life, including additionally the pandemic and having to work back working as a nurse during the pandemic. Like all of those things, I think it just weighed me down so much that I didn't even think to really remember them. I would still call my mom and say, hey, can you look? But I didn't do anything for myself. Like all the tools that I had in my own hands, I didn't utilize. And then I slowly started digging them out again. And what really did the turning point was when my parents came and visited, and my mom showed me a trauma technique of releasing trauma. And so I started working with that almost every day on, the birth was really a rough one too, working on the birth trauma, working on everything that kind of had accumulated, and starting with that, and then also starting with exercise again, and starting to kind of finding back to myself is when I then started pulling back into the energy therapy, into the healing arts, I guess, and into the field that I'm in now. But
You're in now,
I just really kind of lost myself.
So how did you find that? Because it's fascinating. Because you brought your mother into the healing touch, right? And this is what you guys are known for now. But how did you come across it, and what was your aha moment in that side of things, you know, because this is a modality that maybe not a lot of people know about out there. So there had to be some kind of catalyst for you, although you were going through, and I can't imagine how difficult it was during that time, in depressive time, and during COVID, when you can't really nip out for anything and you can't nip down the shops and you can't take your child out. So depression kind of goes hand in hand. But there must have been, Sarah, a catalyst for you that made you go to this healing touch. How did you find out about it, and what did it do for you?
Well, the catalyst was before, when I had graduated nursing school in 2013.
Oh,
and
right, okay.
I was working with those oncology patients, right? That was the catalyst. And I remember I was talking with my mom saying, like, there's got to be more. Like, I want to find something. And, you know, she had gotten all those certifications I knew about, and none of them really were like, it didn't really ring for me. And then, funnily enough, she sends me something about, what was the previous name for healing touch? Healing hands or therapeutic touch? What was it?
I think therapeutic touch. Yeah.
Therapeutic. You sent me something about therapeutic touch, and I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and I found healing touch. And what really was the catalyst for me there was that it was actually acknowledged by the Nurses Association. You could actually use what you learned with healing touch as CEUs, continuing education hours for nursing, and it was actually incorporated in hospitals. And that's where I was like, well, this is it. And I jumped in and I loved it.
Badge of acceptance.
Yes, absolutely. I was like, this is awesome. You know, energy therapy, that's approved by hospitals, and some of them anyways. And, you know, there's been like some research studies on it. It was just, it kind of satisfied that scientific portion of my mind that, you know, as a nurse, you just kind of have as well, right? That like, it's approved. Like, I know this stuff works because I grew up with it, but there's actually like science behind it and research behind it. And they're in hospitals, which means that it is accredited, right? And then obviously I used it, and I used it on myself. I used it on family and then clients, and I saw the benefit of it.
Did you have any particular kind of wow experience when you were using it on yourself? Like, pardon my French, like, holy shit, this works. This has changed me. This, in that kind of moment.
Not necessarily on myself, but I remember doing one of the classes. We did we were already done with our practice. And so 4 of us decided to do a heart-to-heart technique. That was only done usually for 2 people. And we did it, and it literally felt like we were levitating. I'm not kidding you. It felt like we were lifting off. The energy was so intense, and the way that we felt afterwards was just so whole, so complete, so at peace, so energized, so just aligned.
Yeah.
And that for me is one of those key moments where I was like, oh my gosh, energy is just absolutely mind-blowingly amazing. So you must have cool. And Gabby was actually one of those 4 people, my mom. But
was she really? Because I was going to say, when did you tell your mother then? Because I can imagine you've been so excited and gone, Mom, this
was
works.
So cool.
No,
it was so cool.
In the same class, yes.
Yeah, it was in the same class. But, you know, I got my mom, I did level 1, and my parents came and visited for Christmas. And I'm like, Mom, I need you to go and lie down on my bed, and I need to practice this on you. Because just like, feel how this feels. This feels so good. It's so amazing. It's so relaxing. And it totally clears. She was like looking up classes, like, where's this is so cool. And she started right after that. So
that's amazing. And so I love the fact that the 2 of you did this together, and the 2 of you kind of came together in business and everything else. And so let's talk, because there's a lot of people out there. I mean, I've heard about healing touch, right? I know you two guys are experts in it, but I might be the owner of the holistic network, but I don't know everything holistic in any way. So, and there are going to be people out there who are going to listen to this, and they might not have heard about it. So tell us a little bit about what healing touch is, and what's the benefits of it for someone out there that may be looking for something like that.
So that has so many benefits. It helps with pain. It helps to reduce stress and anxiety. It helps ease the symptoms when people have cancer and get the chemotherapy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. especially with that, if you don't mind, I have a story there. I was just student in level 1. I just took level 1, and then a friend asked me if I could work on her friend because she was just diagnosed with breast cancer. I said, sure, I can practice on her, And so she came, right after she had her chemo. So we did a clearing, and I got the next day a message from her telling me she didn't have any side effects from the chemo. And I said, okay, it seems really to
Wow.
work. So, and then she came after each chemo to me to clear her whole energy field. And then when she went back to the doctor, to evaluate how everything is going, they couldn't find the cancer anymore. So that was one of these key moments for me also, that this shit really works, it works, and I was just a student of level 1. So yeah, it
That's
helps
amazing.
in any ways, So.
So did it help her? We've got to be very careful. Obviously, there's legal things that we can't
Yes.
say that can heal cancer or anything like that. So anybody who's listening there, legal disclaimer, we're not saying that it heals cancer or anything else. But did she go into remission? Did she get more benefit from it from her illness, or was it more to do with just the symptoms?
It reduced the symptoms, but so also they reduced her treatment. So instead of 10, she only got 6. And
wow, that's amazing.
She's in completely remission. It never came back. So, and that's now how many years ago? 10? Yeah, 10.
Wow.
9 years. Yeah.
I mean, girls, when you think about it, I love the fact that Sarah, you're also very scientific like I am, and everything's energy, really, isn't it? It doesn't matter whether it's a negative cell, whether it's a cancer cell, or whether it's this table that I'm standing by. It breaks down to its constituents energy. And for anybody out there who doesn't think that, everything is energy, and you can manipulate energy, but you can't destroy it. So it really does stand to reason that you can make a difference by changing that energetic field. But I guess, and I want to ask the two of you this, because I guess, again, I don't know much about the healing touch, but there must be a level of intuitiveness and directing. I don't know whether you're actually touching people or whether you're, maybe clairvoyantly working with the energy, or you're focused. Maybe that's the better word. You're so focused on a particular thing. How does that work for you? Take me through an idea of what maybe a session would be like for you.
So, in general, just, with healing touch or any energy therapy, right? Your goal really is to restore balance and support that natural healing capacity of your client, right?
Yeah.
And that's by holding the space and raising the energy frequency for them and clearing the energy system. And, for people that don't know, but you have your physical body, and then you have your energetic body that is around you. It's kind of like a moving bubble that's around you that you have. And that's what we work with. And then with healing touch, there's some techniques that are just, on your energy field around you where we're not physically touching you. And then there's some that is physical, just positioning of hands, But, for a session, what it would look like essentially is that you start with having that initial interaction where you fill out a whole, intake form. Why are you here? What do you want to work on? What's, something that you want to adjust? And you go through that, you kind of get an understanding of what it is that they're wanting to work on. And that's kind of what you base your intention on then.
Right.
That intention is what we work with then. You set that intention for healing. Say, I want to clear my knee pain that I've had since knee surgery, and it's just not gone away for years and years and years. That phantom pain kind of that you can get to. And that's the intention. And then, usually we just have our clients relax on the massage table, and they lie there and they get to relax. And, for us, we then create a clearing of the room, do protection for ourselves, for the client, where we energetically are protected, set the intention. And then it's, really holding the sacred space for the client
I
to
love that.
have that high energy frequency flow, but then also, following our intuition, our inner voice, our guide, source, whatever it is that you believe in, higher beings, telling us or guiding us to which techniques are going to be most appropriate and most helpful for a client. And we'll do that. Usually it's an hour session, go through the techniques that we feel are appropriate, and then, finish with grounding work, and then having them kind of return to here and now.
It sounds very much like Reiki.
It probably is. Reiki is all hands off. Basic.
Oh, you're hands
on. If you take energy, you can. Some of it is hands on, yes. So healing touch, that's what I was saying. Some of them you're actually physically touching.
Right.
And
so
that's
you're
something,
physically
that's
touching.
something that we start at the beginning of the sessions, like, do we have permission to A, work on you, and B, to touch? Obviously, it's not any inappropriate places, but.
So what's the legalities of that, Sarah?
What's the what? John, can you repeat that question?
What's the legalities of that? Because I know in certain states there's you can't touch anyone, right?
You have to have what's called license to touch, which Gabby literally went to massage school for healing touch to have that license to touch.
Oh, right.
And then me as a nurse, I have it.
Right.
So you have to have that license to touch for it.
So you can't necessarily just decide, hey, I'm going to be a healing touch practitioner. I've never done massage before. I haven't gone and had these qualifications and then get qualified.
You can, because you can always get that license to touch afterwards, which is what Gabby did, right? But there's also, what is the
It also depends on the state in which you live.
Yeah, I was going to say it depends on where you are.
Right.
So it depends on the state that you live in, because there's some states that don't require it. There's some states that do. I know Texas, North Carolina, they do.
Yeah.
North Carolina doesn't.
Oh, North Carolina doesn't. Oh, okay. See,
Texas does, Georgia does, but not North Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Gabby, you're actually in North Carolina, aren't you?
Yeah, she is.
That's right. I forgot about that. So am I. That's awesome. So I'm going to throw the both of you right under the bus, right? So, because I like to do that, I like to ask these questions, so you can both answer this one at a time. What for you, Gabby? What do you feel? You can't both have the same answer, but what do you feel is the secret to someone's healing journey?
So yeah, it depends for sure. The willingness for change and the willingness to do something about it, because they can't come to us and say, heal me. That doesn't work. We are not a healer. We're just holding the space for the healing so that the healing can happen. But we are not a healer. So the willingness to do change, to do their homework, to work every day on themselves.
Yeah, you've got to be able to do the work.
Key.
Yeah, you have to do the work. Yeah.
What about you, Sarah? You can't say the same thing.
I'm not going to. I absolutely agree with Gabby. But the other thing I think that is super, super important is that once you have that willingness to work with energy therapy, is to also delete the need to understand. Because energy will work in mysterious ways that you don't know necessarily. You said, okay, I want to work on my knee pain, but oh my gosh, I didn't realize I've had a headache for years and it's suddenly gone. So your higher self, your body knew, oh wait, that energy needed to go to whatever needs to clear here instead of your knee, because your knee is just another symptom of whatever's going on up here, right? So you have to truly delete the need to understand, because you can't come into a session or go into even like self-healing, meditations or anything with any expectations, because you don't know what's going to happen.
I love that. We have a saying Well, you guys both know that I've been a professional medium for a long time, and this is not a show about me or anything else. But what I will say, this is quite indicative to what you're talking about, because I have a saying that many professionals know is from spirit, through spirit, to spirit.
That's beautiful.
Get yourself out of the way. And I love what you said, Sarah, and don't question it. Don't try and analyze it. From spirit, through spirit, to spirit. That's how we communicate. We get ourselves out of the way and we allow it to flow.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of indicative of what you're saying. You know, don't let it flow, and don't kind of.
Yeah.
Very difficult though in the material world to wonder. I can imagine when you're working with potential patients, the two of you, and something happens and they go, wow, I don't feel that anymore. That's gone. And do you think that maybe their desire for the material world can cause them to relapse, or can cause them other, possible issues, or reverse maybe the healing that they've had, or the work that they've done, or that you've helped to facilitate?
Okay, so yes and no. If they quote unquote relapse, then there is either still a root cause that's still sitting there that hasn't been resolved, right? Or they weren't quite as willing to actually let it go in the first place than they thought they were. And so it just it depends on the individual. And, if you start going down that rabbit hole of like, well, I have to understand, and like, if this went to that, and this is this, and oh, how did I happen to get here? You can you can dig yourself into a hole again. But at the same time, I do want to add that your energy system is super incredibly smart and will only let you release and let go and heal what you can tolerate at any given moment. So it's kind of like an onion too, right? Like if you're relaxing, well, there might be another layer. So it's a yes and no, because it's a process that you have to go through. And if it's something that's been sitting around for quite some time, there is several like layers that you have to go through before you can say, oh, it's actually sorted out and, quote unquote healed.
I think as well, I kind of, like I've always said, that your mind is the psychological building blocks of your reality. Even anything that you have come into fruition has come from thought. And it's your mind, and your mind created your reality. And so, what is that? Well, it's an energetic force. It's an energy force. So I love it. But so let's talk about you two. You've gone ahead now, and you're now business partners. I mean, seriously, mum and daughter is now business partners in this healing. I don't want to even say a job, because for it seems to me that you two, it's a vacation rather than a job.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your business. When did you decide, hey mom, or hey daughter, hey Sarah, let's make a business out of this?
So I already said many years ago, one day we will work together.
Psychic, see?
Well, that she is definitely,
yeah. But it took a while.
Yeah.
No, so there was me. We had actually started somewhat working together. When did you guys move? 2018, 2019, right?
2019 we moved,
Yeah, so before that we had already started kind of developing our own method, our own technique, our own stuff. But then they moved to North Carolina. I got pregnant. And then, that whole like pregnant, had a baby, all that, I fell into that hole. And so everything just kind of was put on ice. Gabby went go, and, she kind of kept going, but I just, nothing on my end. And then I started finally digging myself out with that trauma technique she taught me, and started kind of coming out of that just dark hole I was in, and kind of coming back to my, all right, energy therapy, like, let's go. This is what I love. This is what I enjoy. And then last year in January 2023, I called her and I said, all right, mom, I'm ready. Let's go. And she was like, okay. And here we are.
Yeah, and you're doing. I mean, you're doing well. Essentially, I love the fact that the two of you are really looking to help people transform. I think is more to the.
Mm.
And then you
Yeah.
set up together. Now you're also teaching together now, because you're not. I mean, I never like to use the word that we're all experts in our field, but essentially you have. We're always learning. But the reality is, anybody who's looking inward that doesn't understand it, you are considered experts in the field.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we've created our own kind of niche and field too, because we've done a lot of work with, COVID, long COVID, and kind of the aftermath of the pandemic and all the trauma work. So we've been heavily focusing on that and trauma.
Well, let's
Sprinkled in
talk
with
about that,
some.
because that's really, I mean, that's a really serious issue. People are still facing it now and still having the
Mhm.
fallout from it now in terms of
Mhm.
emotion. And I'm sure you girls have both read, can't remember the author's name, but you're going to know. The Body Keeps a Score.
Oh, it does.
Right. Okay. So the body keeps a score. So all this that you're going through and the trauma in your body, physically, emotionally, everything mentally. So why did you decide to
John, I
kind of,
think you're
I
on
know
it.
you were pregnant and you had a bad time during that time. I don't want to go back into that, but what made you decide, okay, we're going to create our own modality around COVID and long COVID?
Well, so that was actually something that um, Gabby and the healer in Germany had already started the process, because they started working on clients, right? We started working on clients and writing down everything, because after a while they noticed that it was kind of the same repeating stuff that kept showing up. And then I just kind of jumped in onto that and continued and started, helping developing all the protocols and um, all the techniques and everything that we now teach in our workshop for that. But I think I don't know when exactly Gabby and Connie started on that. Probably as soon as the pandemic started hitting and clients started having symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. After the first shock, and
Yeah.
everything settling a little bit down, and then clients coming back, I couldn't work for 3 months because I couldn't see any clients. And that's also where I started turning more to remote work and also starting teaching. And once they came back, then coming in, seeing this repeated pattern, and talking to the healer in Germany, she saw the same thing. So we started to write down everything what we found. And then once Sarah was ready, she did the same with her clients, where she worked on, she wrote down, and we all found the same thing. So we put it all together and created a whole workshop out of it, how you can help people with that and how you can clear that, how you can help family members, your clients, friends from that.
I want to jump into your workshop just in a moment or two, but you've mentioned something there, Gabby, that I think is really important. And there's going to be people out there that are listening, because it's not always going to be holistic practitioners that are listening to this, but hopefully it's going to be a lot of people out there that need you. What was the pattern that you saw, Gabby, that you recognized, from your friend in Germany, the other healer in Germany? Talk to us a little bit about these patterns, because somebody out there is listening may have that aha moment and go, right, I'm there. I'm still feeling that.
Mm. So for sure, it was the work on the energy field. And we have in our energy field energy centers. They are called the chakras. And what we always found was the foot chakra, so beneath your feet, and on top the crown chakra, they were always clogged. So that means people couldn't draw the energy from Mother Earth or have a clear connection to the universe, just living off their own energy. And that created this extreme fatigue. So that's just one thing we repeatedly found and saw in everyone. And then we also found like always symbols, in the brow chakra or in the heart chakra, and always the same and in every client. So that's just a few things we found.
And those symptoms then went over into the physical, realm
I was
with
going to
brain
ask that,
fog,
yeah.
with the
Yeah.
fatigue, right? Because the energy couldn't flow, you ended up with the brain fog, the fatigue. And then another important thing that we started, noticing too is just that trauma work was really, really important too. Trauma can shift your whole energy field so that you're essentially off kilter. And that can then make you feel like, on a physical sense, just kind of unbalanced, just not quite right, just kind of wrong, uneasy, can create anxiety, all these symptoms because you're just not centered. And so it can literally shift or make dense or whatever the trauma is. So the trauma work we found was super important too, because most people have those shifted chakras, and we noticed younger and younger clients showing up, just younger and younger population, because they were going through so much trauma with being in public school, to having to do homeschooling, and parents losing their jobs, and they lost their connection to their friends. They didn't get to do a high school graduation, you name it. And those were all traumas that needed to be cleared, on top of the whole, virus putting energetic aspects into your system as well. So that was another really common thing that we noticed.
In this, I'm not just going to say in America, but throughout the world, globally, the pandemic obviously caused a mass amount of mental torture, I would say, to people, and a great deal of imbalance, especially, and I recognized that there was a massive increase in depression and even suicides, which I don't want to go into suicide, but in depression. So, and there's still people out there that are feeling that depression. So do you feel that your modality that you offer, so we'll go into the little bit about your workshops that you do now, and who are they for? Can it help people with if they're in depression now, still, can they, I mean, do they come to the workshop to get help with that, or is this for practitioners only?
So they can come to, again, disclaimer, we're not going to say that it's going to heal your depression, right? Absolutely not going to say that. But what there's to say, again, with what Gabby mentioned, how your energy line, your clock on top and bottom, just alone that you're not connected anymore, that can actually already partially start pushing you into depression. There's obviously so many other factors for it, but just clearing and balancing all of that out can have a massive impact on how you feel.
Yeah, especially with depression, you have to look into the traumas. What happened in the pandemic that they went into depression? Or was it the loneliness, the separation of friends or families? Whole families got separated. Just having different opinions about different things. And you have to look into that too. So it's always a complex topic.
Absolutely. I found, especially in a lot of the work that I do, that grief became, I want to say, a second pandemic, right? There's I with a lot of research and work I did, I kind of coined like a type of pandemic grief, a different type of grief that happened during the pandemic, after the pandemic. And I've seen that still exist, not just because they lost loved ones, but the grief was exacerbated with the loss of their life, the loss of their loved ones, the loss of their job, the loss of the connection. It all boils down to disconnection in every facet. So do you think that well, obviously, I mean, it can, but people, I guess what I'm saying is I teach grief communities. I have a grief community for COVID, actually. And what I might need to do is get you two to come in and do a little class for our grief community on COVID, because that's I think that's a real important thing. So obviously what you do is, from what I understand, is purely from an energetic spiritual capacity without any religious kind of connotation there. But that changes the dynamics in the physical as well. So give us a couple of examples, because there's people out there are going to say, well, we've listened to you, it sounds fascinating, but I know you mentioned the person that you were working with, Gabby, that had the breast cancer, but give us some other examples since COVID. What could people who have gone through this long COVID or the symptoms that they've gone through, maybe some examples of astonishing transformations that you've witnessed? That's throwing you right
one
under the bus now.
One example is a guy I started working with, a year ago. So he lost during the pandemic his job and went into deep depression. So wasn't even able to look for another job. Then he had the idea to build his own business. But, also this feeling of not needed anymore from the society was deep ingrained in him. So, and then I started working with him, clearing everything, from COVID and the vaccines, and also all the traumas he went through that. And it took him 6 sessions. Then he started to have a more positive outlook on life again. And in January, he started to apply for jobs. And now he actually got a job, and he's so energetic and so happy, back to his true self and evolving and having now a better job he had ever before. And it's just amazing to see the transformation in this person.
I think in general, and just to side jump, because I think you didn't answer it, but our workshop is really set out for anybody. You don't have to have an energetic background. We literally teach you anything that you need to know in regards to energy aspects in the workshop. But when it comes to the stuff that you learn in the workshop and then how the success stories, in general, like just overall umbrella, what we've really found is the biggest impact it has is on fatigue levels. People become much more energized again. Much more back to what I guess the norm was before they had COVID, and then potentially even long COVID. The energy levels is much more improved, and the fatigue is gone. Mental fog clearing out as well. People that are like, well, my mom seems like she's starting to have dementia. But then it's like, is it really dementia? Or is it just long COVID? When you clear that, a lot of times it can happen that that mental focus is back. And it's not actually, they're not having dementia issues. It was just long COVID that was really impacting them, literally physically in their brain. And so it's huge. And I think none of us really realize anymore at this point what our previous norm was and what our previous health level was, because it's been 4 years. And I think we've forgotten, and that this year now is our new norm, right? And so having used what we do on clients and then just seeing them feeling like Energizer bunnies almost is amazing. They're like, I have so much energy. I woke up at 5 in the morning and I did this and this and this and this. And I'm like, well, good for you. This is probably how you were before the pandemic. But, they just get to kind of go back to a little bit of how their life used to be. And that's one of the best
I love that.
And greatest gifts that, we can give them. Because that's kind of what everybody has been longing for, is wanting to be more back to themselves. Right?
So let's talk a little bit more about how often you do these workshops, and we're going to get you to do a master class so people can get a little taste of these workshops in the Holistic Network as well. But let's talk a little bit more about how your workshops are set up. and how often you're doing them, and how people can get in touch with you to come and take part.
So the workshop is set up in a way that it is over 8 weeks. Once a week we meet via Zoom for 2.5 hours, teaching a little bit material, also teaching techniques. We have really powerful healing meditations, and we're teaching techniques, and we go into breakout rooms where we practice on each other, and people will get a handout every week. They will get the recording, so whoever can't participate also can watch the recording. We have a Telegram group where they can ask all the questions, can connect with each other, and they also have access to the whole material for a whole year, and also get updates because the virus is evolving, so our protocols are constantly evolving. So they get constant updates too.
Gabby, do you think that we've seen the end? Let me ask you, Gabby, do you think that we've seen the end of the pandemic, or do you think it's still there?
Oh, we are still full in the pandemic, in the aftermath, in the trauma, in the collective trauma. We are still full in the swing of the pandemic.
You could compare it to like a tsunami wave that came in.
Yeah.
Covered everything in water, and now slowly that wave is retreating. The houses are showing back up a little bit, and now you can see the mess that actually has been created because of it, and all the damage that has come because of it. So it's, just really starting to slowly show itself now, 4 years later.
Now I'm going to be a little bit controversial, and I'm probably going to get shot down in this because there are going to be people that I hate this bit because, okay, for all you vaxxers out there, there's more and more people that have had the vaccinations that are now regretting it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk a little bit about that because I had COVID. I had the long COVID. I suffered from it. But I dealt with it holistically through meditation and everything else. I swore I would never take that vaccine. I'm not going to get into the political side of it, but I am seeing now, and we're seeing this in the holistic network with other professionals. There are people that are probably coming to your practice, coming to other people's practices that are regretting taking these vaccines, and it's causing them all these symptoms and more that you're talking about. So have you experienced that yourself with anybody else? People come to you that have maybe said, I'm suffering from, I've taken so much of the vaccine, I've taken too much, and now this has changed, and can you help me?
John, I think you're going to have to repeat that question because you hung up. Sorry.
Yeah, we were frozen.
Yeah. It's all right. It didn't hung up. It catches up with,
frozen,
with the signal. Yeah. So, okay. So think about like I said, there's been so many examples of people that had the vaccinations that regret it. And now they're suffering just like they suffer with COVID, mental fog, imbalances in their mood swings, even in the physical ailments. Have you experienced this? And I don't mean have you had vaccinations or anything, but have you experienced people coming to you that are suffering from the vaccinations and that you can help them with that?
Yes.
We have seen, or at least I have seen many, and we specific also created protocols for the people who are vaccinated, how help them to flush it out of their system.
So it's in the workshop too. Yeah.
I love that. I wanted to get there because you've got to be a little bit controversial on a podcast like this as well, because there is going to be people out there. I know people that have totally regretted it, and a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, is like, he's had like 6 vaccinations, and he wonders why his head's all screwed up and his fog's out, But he won't have it. You can argue until the cows come home. But I love that. I love that because there's so many people, and this is maybe what I want to say about you two ladies, is there's so many people that they're frightened to actually come and admit it and say, hey, I think I'm suffering because I had so many vaccinations. So if you're out there and you've had a lot of vaccinations and you're looking for help, here it is right here. Non-judgmental, that can help you get through that and everything else. So I love that you guys are doing that. So what is for you guys in the future? What is the dream for you both? You must have a dream for your practice, for your business. What do you want to do?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know if you want to go with me, but I mean, obviously, we want to continue teaching workshops. That's really where our passion has really kind of fallen. Teaching and helping as many as we can, because we know just how important this topic, but other topics that we work with are as well. And ultimately, I think down the road, we would absolutely love having our own wellness center retreat space where these workshops then can also be coupled with like actual retreats where you go through workshops and also come to rest and to have, massages, to yoga, the whole shebang. That's done in the
I love how you light up. I love how your face, I know if you're listening on a podcast, you can't see her face, so you'll need to go on YouTube. But you can see how her face lights up when she talks about how she wants to have the wellness center and actually serve people in a greater way. I love that. I love to see that. I love to see you both smiling and doing the work that you do. Before we kind of finish off, we're coming up to the top of the hour. What message would you give to anybody out there who's maybe suffering from long COVID, or even practitioners that want to become your students? What can they do?
I think, well, first of all, I want to say that everybody has done and did what they thought was the best for them at the time that they did it. Jobs, vaccine, not vaccine, the whole 9 yards during that whole pandemic. And I think that everybody deserves, no matter if they think they did right or wrong, to have help and to have the possibility of healing. And so, if you're open to shifting and to experience healing, then we're here. But, you have to come to us. We're not going to.
And you have to do the work as well.
You have to do the work. But that's usually the step one, is coming to us and finding us, because that's usually the biggest step, is because you deciding that you want to do the work or want to take the workshop is that first step into then taking the next steps of doing the work and creating that self-healing for yourself.
That's awesome. And Gabby, what about you? What about practitioners who want to do what you do? You teach them. Tell us, tell us a little bit about that, how you teach people to become, I don't know, do you teach them to become Healing Touch practitioners, or do you teach them to become something else?
No, we
do
are
you do it under your own banner?
Our own technique, everything what we put together. And we just can invite them to come to our workshops, really open-minded, because what we are doing is completely different what you find out there. So,
I love it. I love the two of you working together. I love everything that you guys are doing. I'm delighted to have you as, a mother and daughter team like you both is part of our holistic network. And if you're out there, ladies and gentlemen, and you're listening to this and it's piqued your interest a little bit, or you're a practitioner and you want to delve into this a bit more, maybe you want to help someone who's suffering from COVID in your practice and you want to come and learn this, then this is the team you need to go to. Tell us how they can get in touch with you, girls. How they can? What's your websites, your emails, everything else that you want to put out there?
So our website is www.healempoweryourself.com, and our email is heal.empower dot love
Empower.
at gmail.com. I had to think.
And also we'll link it in the show notes as well in their website.
Yeah.
And of course we'll put in their holistic network profile so you can contact them through there as well. Final tips or final thoughts from any of you that you want to give before we finish?
Open your heart to the possibility of healing.
There we go. There's a beautiful message. So thank you, Gabby and Sarah, for being our guest on Optimizing Human Potential. I'm so excited to have you on board. As I would say, ladies and gentlemen, if it's piquing your interest, then you need to get in touch with these ladies. You need to get in touch with them and talk to them. And as Sarah said, open your heart to the potential of the power of healing. Just remember, from spirit through spirit to spirit. Don't question it. Let it happen. God bless.